Good evening, good evening, good evening. How's everybody doing? Seems like the country's warming up a little bit, which is a good thing on my end or our end. Finally had some temperatures that aren't finally had some temperatures above zero. I think we were at 26 today, so felt pretty good. Felt pretty warm. 26 feeling warm is pretty weird, but what do you do? Hey Roxy, how's it going? I need a break from researching the files. Hey Z, hey Grammy. Falling asleep. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's still early in your time. No sleeping. Yeah, researching the files is probably taking up a lot of people's time right now. A lot of information out there. A lot of crazy stuff in that. But just figured I'd come on. If anybody wanted to chat about whatever, no real topic tonight. Just kind of giving a place for everybody to hang out, chit chat. If anybody wants to come up or anything, let me know. I can send a link out. You heard me earlier. I did hear you earlier. So I don't know if you're sleeping or passing out. One of the two, right? Doesn't matter. That was fun to listen to. Hey Sunday, how you doing? Sunday. My apologies. But yeah, I just figured I'd come on and see if anybody felt like chit chatting. Don't have a whole lot to say, I guess. I mean, I always have a lot to say, but not anything in particular tonight. It's all success, whichever comes first. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with either one. Is what it is what it should be. I know that I've been taking some real fantastic power naps in between all the other crap going on. Been pretty busy with getting my mom set up in a assisted living this week, and that's been a challenge. 1,000 miles away, and hard to do things from that far away, but we're getting there. Hey Maureen, how you doing? But yeah, Lisa thought it'd be a good idea to go live and just give everybody a place to just talk about whatever they wanted to talk about amongst themselves or with us or otherwise. And I'm okay with that too. The only thing I guess I'll say just right off the bat is just like in the title, I think it's time to stay out of the mud, just like Scott's been doing. I completely agree with that. I think a lot of people are getting too much oxygen lately, and quick way to turn that oxygen off is just don't even go there. And to be honest, I'm bored to death with it. Same stuff month after month after month after month after month, and it's like, Jesus, come up with new stuff or just be ignored. I don't know if Lisa's going to talk tonight or not. She's a little winded today. But I'm sure if something tickles her fancy, I'm sure she'll jump in there. Hey Jody, how you doing? We're just hanging out, relaxing tonight. I gotta see if I can do something here real quick. Hope you and yours are doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. Lisa's doing well. We're doing well as we can, I guess. Like I said a few minutes ago, it was pretty nice to have the temperatures um, up above zero, daytime or nighttime. It's kind of fluctuating tonight, though. Single digits up to the low teens. Let me see. All right. What do we got here? Freddie Jr. 88. Why did Sticker Chick yell at you in her chat the other night? I don't know. Why did Sticker Chick yell at me in her chat the other night? Don't know and don't care. Is that a good enough answer? Hope so. Glad temps are back in the positives. Helps those pipes hold up longer. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's the one thing I can tell you that is one thing that definitely sucks is when water lines freeze at your house and septic. We had septic freeze when we lived at the place before this. We had the septic freeze. We had a guy come in with a big excavator to dig it up because the ground had 2.5 feet of frost in it. So he had to break through it to get down to where he could actually move dirt and get down to the pipes and the tank and everything else. And got it done. And a week later, it froze again because they missed a 12-inch section of the pipe in covering it. And it froze solid again a week later. That was insane. But yeah, it's that the whole pipe thing, that's tough. Lethal Manners Media. Good evening, David. I know you don't agree with my picture. Iron Man, if you can still be cordial. Of course. I'm cordial to all kinds of people, Iron Man, that I don't agree with and that don't agree with me. I have fantastic conversations with people that have completely opposite views that I do. I've done that for 30 years. The only problem is that it's gotten really difficult to have those conversations now with some people because there's just no bending or listening or um, rationale compared to what it used to be. But I think you and I could probably have great conversations. I really do. I mean, hell, Direwolf and I, we're pretty hardcore opposite on political spectrum, and we talk on the phone for 2 hours sometimes. And yeah, we talk about politics. We talk about this. We talk about that. We just we have pretty good conversations. And sometimes we end up saying, "Oh yeah, you feel that way. I feel that way," and other times we just say, "All right, well, let's move on to something else." But I consider him a good friend. He's a hell of a guy, and I think you're a hell of a guy. So I think that would probably work out just fine. And I know that I'll say some things that'll rub you the wrong way, and you might say things that rub me the wrong way, but that's okay, man. I've like I said, I've had these conversations for the better part of 30 years. So I'm all for it. Freddie Jr. 88. Skies will be still at your place. Freddie, you got a lot of questions tonight, buddy. A whole lot of stuff that you may not get answers to. Yeah, Iron Man, I think the same way. As far as you're concerned, I think you're a damn straight up guy. And just because you think differently about things or have different ideas about things than I do, so I don't ever let that stop me. The thing that I get, the thing I have an issue with is when political talk turns into stupid talk. Um, People try to pass different issues on, you know, to me or get me to see something different or see it their way, I guess is the best way to say it. But then I realized that they don't know what they're even talking about. I had a 45-minute conversation with a guy that I've known for 25 years up here out in the driveway. And he explained to me why he and I were at opposite ends of the political spectrum. And it was basically, it was set on the fact that he was mad about what Democrats had done. I said, like what? I mean, what have they done that bothers you? What don't you like? And he went through a bunch, and I've told this story before, but he went through 6 or 8 things that he was really pissed off about that the Democrats had done. And luckily I had my phone out there, so I just started responding to it, and I was able to pull up information to show him that every single thing he was mad about the Democrats had done. It wasn't the Democrats that did it; it was the Republicans that had done the things that he was so mad about. And I didn't rub his nose in it or anything like that. I just gave him information, and I said, I hope you can see that things might be a little different than what you think they are. And I think when he left, um, I think he was doing a lot of thinking. Did I change his political affiliation or views or anything? No, I don't. I don't think so. But at least I gave him some information, and it was a amicable conversation. And I still consider him a friend, and I think he considers me a friend, and it worked out okay. Freddie Jr. 88. Good night. I'm bored already, or I'm already bored. Well, I'm sorry about that. I wish I could be more entertaining for you. I mean, I'm not really here to entertain you, but
Don't let the door hit and
and my wife just said, "Don't let the door hit in the ass on the way out." So that works for me too. I really don't. I really don't care either way. I'm not going to come up. I did a grocery order after a stream earlier, ridiculously high, and ate a whole bag of Car oranges. I'm so full and so sleepy. Well, bless your heart. A whole bag of oranges, like full size oranges, 7 of them. That's a lot of orange. And I have no idea what Car oranges are. That must be a California thing. I bought a bag of those petite oranges. What are they? I don't remember what the name of them are. They sell them. They sell them for kids. Basically, they market them to kids because they're convenient to put in a lunchbox or a lunch bag or whatever, and they're small and a good snack for younger kids and stuff. But I I had a couple of them last night out of the new bag, and I've had these quite a few times before. Cuties, yeah, that's it. Thank you, Z. I appreciate it. I've had a bunch of these. I mean, we've gotten them for a long time, but the ones I got last night, I had 3 of them, and the first 2 tasted completely different than other ones that I've ever had, and it was literally a blend between an orange and a grapefruit. It didn't taste bad, it just tasted different. It was actually pretty good, but it just was very different than what I was used to. So I don't know if they've got a mix between a grapefruit and an orange going out there or what, but it is something that definitely caught me off guard. Um, anyhow, Iron Man, your picture about getting rid of sanctuary cities. I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm a lefty compared to being on the right. Right? Most people know that. As far as sanctuary cities go, I think that you and I might agree on stuff more with that than you think, but I don't know. I think there's a time and place for immigration enforcement. I don't think that a blanket coverage from a sanctuary city should just automatically include anyone. If you have clear and provable information that someone that is an immigrant that has committed crimes, hiding from the law, that type of thing, I don't think sanctuary cities should protect those people ever. That's how I feel about it. Now, what's going on right now in this country, I don't agree with most of it because it's certainly not what was said to begin with that's going on. So, like, for example, I live in a rural area, and in this part of the state, especially, there are a lot of farms here that depend on immigrant workers, and they have for decades. As a matter of fact, a mile from my house, just over a mile from my house, is a pretty big veggie farm. They grow everything from pumpkins in the fall to leafy veggies and root veggies and you name it. They grow it all, from tomatoes to cabbage to beans to some corn. They don't really focus too much on corn, but I know they plant corn. They do melons and pumpkins and all that stuff. It's pretty good sized operation, and they plant a lot of they plant a lot of acreage. I know that they are struggling right now because they're having a hard time keeping the immigrants here because they're scared. You know, they're again, they've done this for decades. This farm has run for decades like that, and those people have, I think, 5 or 6 trailers set up right on their main property by the farmhouse, and their main sheds and everything. There's 5 or 6 trailers set up where the families come up and live there, and do all the picking and harvesting and all that every year. As soon as the snow melts, they're here. As soon as the snow starts to fly, they leave. But this year has been tough for them because they're having a hard time getting them in here. Now, that part of immigration, this country needs to come together on. Right and left need to understand what that is, what it does for the community, and I think most people do understand it. That those situations are necessary for the growth and function of the ag community in this country, which impacts all kinds of economic function and everything else, especially in smaller areas. And I think we need to have policy in place that handles that and addresses that, because it's something that this country was built on from the very beginning, and it's served this country well as far as how this country has grown. But we don't have that. And the politicians on both sides talk about immigration reform. I mean, when's the last time we've had any reasonable immigration reform that's going to serve the purpose that fits the bill of what this country needs? It's been a long, long, long time from either party. And it hasn't happened when the right was in charge and it hasn't or had control, and it hasn't happened when the left had control. But that's something I think pretty strongly about, that people need to understand that. I live in a sanctuary city. I had an illegal bring up false charges on me. It took 3 years of time in court. That's how he got his papers, and cost me over 30 grand. Yeah, and that's absolutely wrong, Iron Man. That's one of the things, again, I guarantee you that you and I probably agree 100% on. There are so many circumstances out there. We could talk about immigration for hours, days. There's very specific examples of why we need immigration reform in this country. 99% of it has to do with how people come into this country, when they're considered in the process of coming in, whether they're here legally or illegally. I don't think we should have illegal immigration either. That shouldn't be allowed. But I also understand that our immigration policy is such that we don't coordinate properly with the countries to our south, especially, and other countries around the globe, as far as how our immigration works. When you start hearing that you've got like 9,000 court cases that are behind, you've got tens of thousands of people that have come here to come and work on the farms and do the jobs that most Americans won't do, and they're starving to do it, but they can't because our immigration system is so screwed. That's something we need to fix, and the sooner we get it fixed, the sooner all these other problems go away. Because if we can get a control on that, and we can get people across the border legally, as under our terms, you're not going to have as many illegal situations in the country, or illegal situation to deal with. So I mean, that's part of that. But I don't label myself left or right. Two-party system is bullshit. I'm going to see if I can do this, make it easier. I don't label myself left or right. Two-party system is bullshit to me. I go with what's right morally and what's wrong, and all this shit is not right. Yeah, I have a lot to say about that too, Roxy. I think you're not too far off on any of that. I believe in legal immigration all day long, not just coming across and jumping the line that people have been waiting in for years, close a decade. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, Iron Man. That's the thing that we need to get fixed. Because to be honest with you, we're one of the most advanced countries in the world. There's no reason why we can't handle that. We should be able to handle however many people we need in this country, and we need people in this country. Don't anyone not believe that, please, because that's a fact. We have to have these people in this country in order for our economy to be stable and strong and growing. Because again, the jobs that these people do, most Americans won't touch it. And you can go back, you can relay it back to, the 17, 1800s. There was a lot of stuff going on in this country that was done through slavery and stuff. Now, slavery is a million times wrong. The reason they did it is because they wanted to grow to a certain level, and they couldn't afford to pay people a normal wage to do that. And that's what the root of that was. Everything else, after that, when it started, I don't want to get into, but it's the same type of situation where you have needs in the economy that are filled by people that come here and are willing to work for for the lack of a better term, slave wages, because that's basically what it is. I mean, you got states right now that have minimum wage up to 15, 20 bucks an hour. You go to work at a McDonald's or a chicken joint or something, and you got a kid that's barely out of high school or still in high school making potentially 15, 20 bucks an hour. And that's certainly not what the farm workers are getting paid. The two-party system thing, that's a whole nother, like I said, that's a whole nother discussion to get into. I would love to talk about that sometime too. But I think that I agree with you that there shouldn't be people jumping the line, but we shouldn't have lines. If we solve that part, then we don't have people jumping the line. And securing the border, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. It's obvious that a wall's not doing it. It's not going to do it. They'll figure out other ways, whether it be airplanes or boats or tunnels or ladders or anything else. They're still going to come. It's not going to stop it. And and there's no way to track it that way. You can't have people lined up along the border with eye to eye vision. Everything in between them, visible. We should have spent the money on technology that we can actually monitor the border as opposed to just put a fence up there or a wall up there. SAS Fan Club, how you doing? None of our ancestors, my ancestors are from the Americas. I'm the trespasser here as far as I'm concerned. Well, you know what? Nobody, that goes, every person, I guarantee you, every person in this chat, just by the odds, every person in this chat, their family originates from somewhere else. That's what this country's about. We were the melting pot of the world. And for a long time, over a couple centuries now, we've worked it out pretty decently. But I mean, I've got a long run of family that's been born here and everything else, but originally, no, they don't. We didn't come from here. Hey, Melody. Hey, Kirby's mom. How you doing? Hope you like the short that I put up for you. I had fun with that. Butch, does either side really want to fix the problem? No, and that's what I said before. Actually, they don't, and it's obvious they don't because they haven't done it. Both sides have had ample opportunities over the last 20, 30 years to address the situation at the border, and they could have done it, but they didn't. So yeah, there's an argument to be made on who really wants to solve this and who wants to, always keep it going. A perpetual argument. Spent 2 days on DOJ websites and when I want to be lazy, everyone in power, 6 bright fox, fix that shit first. Yeah, that's easier said than done, but yeah, I agree. It needs to be done. And it's a both sides thing too. Because we do have a two-party system right now. Both sides do need to be fixed. We need term limits for both sides, for everybody. We need term limits for the Supreme Court. We need term limits for all of Congress. I think we should set some minimum requirements for people coming into Congress. If you really stop and look at the documentation that sets our government offices and positions, there's really not that many requirements to do these different jobs. See, that's the problem as a business owner. How can I compete with these illegals working for $10 an hour when I have to charge $45 an hour just to make a penny? Yeah, and again, Iron Man, that's an excellent point. And I think that again, if we solve the immigration issues, which is not that hard to do, it wouldn't be that difficult to fix this. And part of that has to address business owners and how they, how a business that doesn't have access, for example, having access to people. If a business in the northern part of the country doesn't have access to the same workforce that a business along the border does, then that business in the northern part that doesn't have access should have some kind of concessions to make it viable for them to survive. And they need to set different laws as far as the employment situation. I mean, you shouldn't have a situation where one place can hire people at $10 an hour and the other person has to hire people that want 25 an hour, because that's not how this country is supposed to work either. There's all kinds of stuff to capitalism and all these different issues, and it all really needs to fit together. Okay, I'm getting behind the chat, but see, that's the problem too. I think teenagers should have those jobs. We work together on living, not to give to the illegal, but to help around. That's good in theory. I mean, as far as the teenagers stuff, that's good in theory, but try to get them to do it. I mean, you and I don't know that you and I are that much different in age, and I can tell you that my first job, I worked at 13 years old. I was working as an assistant groundskeeper at a golf course when school wasn't going on. Soon, the first day of summer vacation, I went to work. I had to be there at 7 in the morning. I rode a 10-speed bike, about halfway of a 7-mile trip, halfway on dirt roads, and then hit a blacktop, and it was great. But I had to be there for 7 in the morning, and then I'd work until usually around 2 in the afternoon every day. I mean, they had golfers there every day. That's what I worked, from the summer. So I never had a day off, really. I wasn't working 40-hour week or anything, because at 13 you can't do that. But and I had to have a permit system where my parents approved it, and all those things. But kids don't want to do that stuff, that work now. And I can tell you too, the work they do, especially in the ag segment, which again, the government needs to set up a lot of new things for, giving consideration to the ag industry to make it feasible for them to have these people who come in that want to work and do that work and are willing to do it for less money. Because even the teenagers these days, it's a rare thing to find a teenager that would go out in a field and work their ass off like these people do every single day, from sun up till sundown. We'll be back in a bit. All right, Kirby's. Appreciate it. Melody, I think I said hi to you, but I'm not sure. If I didn't, hi, Melody. Okay, if you were born in America, I don't care what your ancestors came from. You're born here. You're an indigenous person to America. Yeah, I agree. I'm talking the overall scheme of things, as far as the establishment of the country and why we have laws that we have, because it was all influenced from other parts of the world. I mean, our founding was influenced by what was going on politically in other countries. So it kind of spills to that. Dairy farms around my parents, they pay their workers $25 an hour to milk cows. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good jobs out there in the farms, but there's also a lot of jobs that don't pay that. And again, immigration reform could fix all that. We could stabilize all this stuff where it's not an ongoing battle. It's not a situation where people have to worry about, going broke just to have certain people, working for them. Term limits, full background checks, and drug tests to start. Yeah, Roxy, that's a whole nother discussion I would love to have sometime, because I think there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to change in our government. And I think I probably feel the same way that a lot of people on the right do, and I know I feel the same way a lot of people on the left do. When I was in high school, they had a course called Work Studies, and you can actually go and work for a company and get credit for high school. I studied to be a machinist, starting in 10th grade, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I went to a vocational technical school. First half of the day I went there and learned how to be a machinist. And the second part of the day I went back and did the required courses like the English and math and stuff like that. And the end of my junior year, they also had another part of that program that was called a co-op program, where you could actually get hired by companies to go out and work for them in the trade that you were learning in. And that's what I did. So my last year of school, my full senior year of school, I was working full time, taking like 2.5 hours of classes and then going to work I didn't have to be at school till 1 o'clock, and then I would go till 2:30, and then I had to be at work for 4, and I'd work till 11 at night my whole senior year. So yeah, there's lots of programs out there. There's still a lot of programs like that, but again, finding the people that are willing to do that, that don't want to go to college and try to earn $400,000 first year out of school, and people that have the money to go to pay for the schools now. That's another challenge. How far behind am I? Not too far. Prairie says we also have huge issues in Canada. Illegal immigrants receive $15,000 and then over $7,000 a month. I would have to go find the quote. Came from a government board questioning the current government. Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, we're not the only country in the world with immigration issues. There's no doubt about that. Everybody has immigration issues to deal with. Every democratic society has immigration issues because there are a lot of places that aren't democratic societies that aren't very good to live in, and they're certainly not good if you're trying to raise a family and do better, and to give your family hope and build on what's out there. But we're not the only ones in this situation. There are certainly countries that have equally, if not worse, immigration issues than we do, without question. And again, a lot of it you can identify because the United States was built on the backs of immigrants. I mean, that goes way back. That's not just from south of the border. Look at the railroads in this country. Who built the railroads? Chinese immigrants. 90% of our railroads were built by Chinese immigrants, and they sure as hell weren't making much money to do it. But apparently, it was a better thing for them than what they had, back home. So this has been going on for a long, long time. It's complex. There's no doubt about that. But I think there's answers to it that if everybody would just kind of get, the politicians, if they get their head out of their ass and dump some of the greed off, that they carry and maintain themselves through, I think we could probably come together and fix it pretty easy. And boy, if somebody doesn't like talking about immigration, they sure don't want to be in this stream tonight right now. We're not going to talk about anything in particular, but it's been all immigration, and that's okay. I think talking about whatever works. We got, if the assumptions are true that conservatives want the cheap labor and that's why they don't want immigration reform, why is the reason Dems don't? I can just tell you that, again, it's a complex situation. There's a lot of answers to it. We could talk. I mean, I could talk about this for a long, long time, but I'm going to say that assumption is not true. That's not why conservatives, at least over the last 20 to 30 years, and even more so over the last 15 to 20 years, that's not why conservatives don't want to fix it. The honest God truth, and is provable through all kinds of statistics, the conservative side of this country right now, the politicians, they know how effective it is for winning elections. And again, there's just mountains of evidence to prove that. And I don't know if anybody really disagrees with that or sees it or doesn't see it or otherwise, but that's why the right doesn't want to. As far as the left, to be honest, I think it's mainly because they get too caught up in other causes, and they are too comfortable with the idea of putting immigration reform on the back burner while they try to do these other things that they think the people on the left want to see done. When in reality, I think if they were to address immigration properly, get with the entirety of the government, get it fixed, I think it would make the country stronger, and that's what government should be doing, is making this country stronger. But again, those are very simplified explanations of just certain aspects of it. Forgive me, I've been in a dark rabbit hole for days. I'm just disgusted and pissed. Yeah, Roxy, I get it. I know where you've been with the rabbit hole, and once again, that shouldn't be a left or right thing. That's something right now that pisses me off is that the division over that, those files and what these people have done to kids and stuff. I get angry with that just thinking about it. So diving into those files like that, I can see why that would just trash you. But see, that's what you guys forget. We're not a democratic society. We are a constitutional republic. That's why we are the greatest in the world. Yeah, I know, Iron Man. I get that, and I understand the legalities of it. But we're a democracy at the same time. We are a democratic society, whether anybody wants to accept that or not. We are. This country's never functioned from its inception as a constitutional republic, the way it's legally described. It's never just been that. And the reason why is because this country has adapted over the years, over the 2+ centuries that we've been around, and realized what it takes to make this country grow. And I can just say this: looking at it as a democratic society shouldn't be a bad thing, because a democratic society has certain freedoms and affords growth and the American dream a lot more than the constitutional republic would if we were just strictly a constitutional republic. If we followed that to a T, we wouldn't have the growth and the ingenuity and stuff that we have now. And I'm not saying that one's not better to look at than the other, but we've got to be able to see them as partly as the same thing, or in conjunction with each other as they function, because one is the basis and the other is the innovation and the freedom to do what people are able to do. That's what opens the door for for the machine age and stuff, the industrial age in this country. That's one of the reasons why we are so successful, is people were afforded the ability to use their earnings and the capitalistic side of earnings to open up this country in ways that other countries just weren't able to. And we were able to learn from other countries' mistakes and also tap into their innovations. There's a lot. Again, all these topics are extremely complex. It's never just a single statement that answers the questions. And I think with that, that's one of them. That small d, instead of looking at a capital D to separate it to Democrats and Republicans, look at it as a small d. Democracy is something that's successful, and it does afford the different countries that have used it around the world to become more advanced than those that don't. So it's not a bad thing. If you look at it as only a political thing, then yeah, it would cause a lot of consternation from a lot of people. But I think that just overall, they work well together. I have no problem with immigration, but unvetted mass migration isn't the way to go. Yeah, Prairie, I agree. And I think there's probably not very many people in the world that would disagree with that. You've got to be able to control what's going on in your country. And the way to get that done is through immigration reform. If you get it set up, I think it could work pretty well. Eight-year-old daughter because they're brown, they're Native Americans. Yeah, Melody, that's something that I hope pisses off every single person that's in this chat and every single person that's looking at what's going on in the country. Because that's what's wrong, what's going on right now. is, there shouldn't be anybody in their 8-year-old that's born and raised here that's being detained by ICE. I don't care how you look at it. I just saw today that the 5-year-old kid that had the little hat and the backpack on, that was detained, that was used as a bait to get his father, and then both of them were sent to a detention center in Texas, in South Texas. A federal judge just ordered them to be released today. And just, if nothing else, on principle, I'd be in trouble if somebody grabbed my 5-year-old kid and used him as bait for anything. I don't give a shit I don't care what I did or didn't do. Somebody grabs my 5-year-old kid, we're going to have a problem. Senate illegals vote in our local elections. That's how we can get our own people into office. In local elections, you mean like immediately local elections, or state elections, or federal elections, or what? Because I can tell you, at the federal level, that's not happening. That's the rarity that that's a story's been made up. It's a rarity that it ever happens, if it ever happens. Our election system has so many fail safes built into it, checks and balances across the board, that it does a really good job of stopping that from happening. Maybe just locally somewhere that could be happening, but I haven't heard much of that either, because they use pretty much the same systems. And if it is happening, Iron Man, it sure shouldn't be happening. If you're not legal to vote in this country, you sure as hell shouldn't be allowed to vote. You should be held responsible for it, and whoever is running that system should be held responsible for that too. David, if you feel you need some levity in your share, I have many horror stories growing up on a farm. Oh, in your chat, I have many horror stories growing up on a farm. I know my birth story, although life-threatening to my mom and myself, but seemed funny to the Prairie. I'm good with any kind of stories. I'm not sure how chat feels about them. I don't know how chat feels about me just sitting here rambling on, responding to you guys. That's what counts for me. As long as everybody's cool with it, we're good. People outside of chat, I don't give a shit what they think. And if you guys have an issue with me talking too much or saying the wrong things or otherwise, please respond to it. Let me know. I'm always for listening to talk more, talk less, or otherwise. Doesn't matter. I know I'm going to have difference of opinions for a lot of people in this community, but I think that's what makes everything tick. We all come out better in the end if we talk. And that's the biggest problem right now in this country, is people don't talk. They yell at each other. I'm all for talking. Always was, always will be. Kirby's mom, for your information, big protest in Milan, Italy yesterday. Or ice being used there in the Winter Olympics. Yeah, that's a great example of the stupidity that we're facing here, Kirby's, is stuff like that. There's no reason why any ICE agents, under any circumstance, no matter what, it should not be announced that ICE agents are going to Italy to do anything with the Olympics. We have lots of other positions in our government, in our law enforcement, in our intelligence agencies that are much more fitted and trained and capable of that type of thing than sending ICE over there. And again, I think it's just a distraction. It's a ploy to distract from other conversation and otherwise, because it doesn't make any sense. I would love to have somebody explain that to me on how that makes sense. It's just, that would be a tough argument to do that, because we have more than enough people that could perform that type of service. What they described it as basically security and such. ICE is the last people that need to be over there doing that. In the first new months, over 223,000 were brought in. Is that into Canada? Is that what you're talking about, Prairie? Yeah, it is discussing how they're operating. Ray, I agree. Our mayor, city council, and governor and reps. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear more about that, about what information is out there as far as the illegals voting, Iron Man, because yep, I'm on the left. Should anyone in this country illegally be able to vote? No, they're not supposed to be able to at any level. So I'd be willing to, ride that horse and make some noise to help change that. If it's happening, I can tell you on the federal level, it's not happening. It's not happening to a measurable level. And, the voter fraud cases in this country, you're not going to hear what I say, but I'll just tell you that the 90% of the voter fraud cases in this country are coming from the right, not the left. And they're isolated. It's a rare thing. It really is. In a country of 330 million people, and if we have 50% turnout, which is high, the millions of people that vote, you might have less than 20 or 30 voter fraud cases in any cycle across the country. I mean, those are kind of the real numbers. The rest of it's just made up garbage. There's no proof to any of it. It's just nonsense, and that should stop. I think people that make up stuff about the election stuff to make other people believe that there's stuff going on that there's not, those people should be prosecuted for that. Because if that's not, interfering with voter rights, I don't know what is. And as I went in a house looking for my kid, previous officer said a mom looking for her kid. Okay, I'm not sure what that context of that is. I'm sorry. Here, all I have to do is show ID. Well, the ID thing is a whole nother argument too that I would love to get into. In the state of New Mexico, gives IDs to illegals. Well, that shouldn't be happening either. If that's the case, if that's true, then that shouldn't be happening. That's just not the way it's supposed to work. I mean, I don't know everything about it. I don't know what the whole context of that is. Maybe it's part of a farm program because they can't get the people in to work the farms and they're doing that or whatever. Who knows? But I don't agree with again, if you come into this country, we need to be able to process everybody that wants to come here to work. It's foolish not to. And the fact that we're not doing that is what's leading to where we're at today. That's all there's to it. I mean, like I said, I know there's a lot that the left and right agree on. And I'm not saying that I speak for the left. What I say here is my opinion, not anybody else's. But I've been involved with politics and stuff for a long time. I've debated politics. I've been very vocal about a lot of stuff. And by doing that, it's given me an opportunity to learn, the reality of what's going on out there, not just listen to what somebody on TV tells me. And I don't accuse other people of that until I hear the talking points. And that's the one thing that I wish arguments would cease and desist on is what you've heard from somebody else. If you haven't looked at it for yourself, don't argue with somebody about it, because chances are you're wrong. And I'm guilty of that too. I've been in arguments in the past where I'd argue something that I heard from somebody I thought was going to be correct, and they weren't, and I looked like an idiot. So that's why I quit doing that. I just wish everybody would. But the ID thing, the big push right now is for a while now has been voter ID. Everybody should have voter ID. And they don't ID here and they don't ID there. You don't have to have ID to vote. Well, just in a real simplified manner, I can tell you that every state in the country requires ID. Not to walk in and vote, but when you register to vote, you have to prove who you are. In every state, there's no exception. Every state, you have to show who you are. And that's either through a couple different forms of ID plus utility bills at your address to show where you live. So you're in the right, they got you in the right district and all that. You have to do that when you register to vote in this country. when you go to vote, they look to see if your name is on the list as a registered voter. And if you are, you should go and vote. And everybody says, well, yeah, but how do they know who you are? Well, there's fail safes built into our system that catch it. If I go in to vote and I tell them I'm somebody else and that person has already voted, the system isn't going to let me vote. And at the very worst situation is, even if it doesn't catch it then, there's other checks and balances in the systems, all these systems, that will find a duplicate name in the voting tabulations, and it'll kick it out. It'll kick both of them out, and that's when investigations come into play. But it's just redundant to have to require ID out of people that don't have it, because a lot of people don't. You know, there's millions of people in this country that just, I'm sorry, they don't have it. They don't have a need for it. They're not the money earner in their family. They're not the ones signed up for programs. They don't have it. And to force people like that to go through the situation of having to carry an ID around or renew IDs and everything else, for a lot of people in this country, believe it or not, that's a tough thing. And it's just undue pressure on some people. That's why I joined your channel on KMU chats, because I know in here I can talk with you and not jumps on like in Scott's chat. Yeah, it's not. I hope people know that's what my chat's about. You know, Iron Man, I welcome you and everybody else in here to have any kind of debate we want to. You know, and people that don't want to, they don't have to come in. I get that, but some people I'm going to be an asshole to. That's all there is to it. If they come in and they're just ignorant and stupid and just, you know, talking shit and not having anything to back it up or life examples or anything else to add to it, I'm going to tell them to fuck off and be on your way. I don't, you know, that's just, I don't have time for that. But I love debate. I love conversation, because that's what makes things happen. You know, that's what gets people to understand what's going on in our world. There's the infrastructure in the country. I'm definitely behind again. Not at all. Bill Richardson gave it to them. Bill Richardson. And that should be looked at. I'll just say it that way. I mean, that's my feeling on that. The whole, if illegal immigrants are getting ID that they are able to vote with in New Mexico, that needs to be looked at. But to be honest with you, and again, I've paid attention to a lot of voting stuff and a lot of immigration stuff. This is the first I've heard that illegal immigrants are getting ID that allows them to vote in New Mexico. I don't agree with that at all. So jury duty, when I was filling our local government is at fault for some of the fraud, in my opinion. They need to get their shit together. Yeah, SAS Fan Club, I agree. There's definitely fraud, but it's not typically where everybody's told it is. And right now, there's a lot of that going on in Washington, and people need to wake up to it. And I don't say that as somebody on the left. I say that as an American, because there's, you know, when people are getting gold bars from Egypt, fuck you, get out of our government. There's a good example for the people that know. They know what that means coming from me. I don't support that. I will never support that type of thing. The enrichment of people in this government, you know, they're doing it through illegal means and legal means. A lot of the legal means should be changed. The illegal means should be stopped immediately. There were 6 charges in Ohio and a student from China that I saw that they charged for voter fraud recently. And Sassy Pants, I'll say this about that real quick, just because that caught my attention. Charging people and convicting them is 2 entirely different things. Keep that in mind, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in Minneapolis. Is a great example. How many people are getting yanked out of their cars that are just on their way to get groceries or on their way to a doctor's office or picking up their kid or going to work or otherwise, or filming somebody, which last I checked, you're allowed to fucking do that in this country. I just watched the video today, and that's one of the one things I wanted to bring up tonight is that video that I watched because it made my blood boil to watch it. They give them an actual driver's license. Yeah, I've heard some of the ag situations they do. I believe even in Wisconsin, there's some to get driver's license, but it's not people that are here illegally. It's people that are not through the asylum process yet, but they're here to work while they're waiting on the asylum process to end. And I can tell you the right-wing politicians in Wisconsin tried to say that those people were illegal, but they're not illegal. They're here going through the process that this government has established that they have to go through. And while they're waiting for that process to be done, they're here to work. And the farmers are the ones that asked them to approve that in Wisconsin, is give these people licenses so they can get back and forth to help us, run our farm. So again, there's, I don't know New Mexico circumstance as well as maybe I could. I just haven't any need to know it, but you might want to look into that and find out what the circumstance was as far as issuing that stuff. Other than that, most of the fraud cases I saw where people voted for Trump for their dead mom, for ex-wife. Yeah. Like I said, sassy pants. I know the people on the right don't want to hear this, but the truth of the matter is, as far as voting fraud in this country, it's much more prevalent on the right than it is the left, and it's been that way for a long, long time. Just like right now, they're trying to get rid of mail-in ballots. How many people realize that 30 years ago, Republicans depended on mail-in ballots, mail-in voting to win? Anybody know that? Everybody know that? That's the truth. The numbers are out there. 30 years ago, Republicans depended on mail-in voting to win elections. That's the honest to God truth in this country. And now, all of a sudden, it's a horrible thing. I have zero objections to having to show a form of ID to vote, and I'm one of the a-holes David B. just referred to. No, not quite. You're almost there, but not quite. Don't label yourself something. I didn't name you. Yeah, I don't have big objections to having to show it until you start talking about the millions of people in this country that don't have it and the burden that it puts on them because they don't have cars, they don't have public transportation. They have to, just to get an ID and renew it, because in some states those IDs have to be renewed every year. They don't last as long as driver's licenses do. So even everybody says, well, a state ID is free. It's not free to them because it causes so much, pain and anguish and effort to do that. It's an undue burden that they don't need to have. If they can show who they are through whatever means the state requires them to do it to get them registered to vote, why dink around having to make them show another ID? Because again, if they try to vote or somebody else tries to vote for them, the system will catch it. It always does. I mean, hell, even right now, I'll just say this: Trump's own election workers, administrators, said as much. They're the ones that brought all the stats out to prove all this. It was his people. Any other American was turned up minuscule fraud and not enough to sway an election. Exactly. And that's the thing is, again, you want to talk about the issues here. That's part of the issue. Election fraud is not an election changing issue in this country, and it never has been. It never will be. But if you listen to the people on the right, Trump and all the rest of them, you would think that our election system is just completely fucked, but it's not. And it never has been. So I hope they don't succeed in making it that way. Yeah, like I said, the rates that they find fraud in this country for voter fraud is minuscule. It's almost unmeasurable. In the overall scheme of things, it really is unmeasurable. You're talking less than 100 people in the last, I forget how many election cycles, out of how many hundreds of millions of votes. That number is almost just unidentifiable. Okay, I'm still not too far behind. That's cool. I mean, I totally agree with you. New Mexico allows undocumented immigrants to get standard driver's license. Yeah, you know what? Here's my take on that. Just learning about it just in the last few minutes. If you want to give them a driver's license so they can legally drive on the roads, if they can prove that they have the ability to drive safely on the roads and they can follow the safety directions that everybody else has to follow with a driver's license, fine. But don't let them use that to vote. An immigrant driver's license in that circumstance should not be a form of ID accepted for voting. And that would solve that in a heartbeat. I mean, if it's not the way it is, it should be that way, in my opinion. Trump vote, yeah. Sassy pants, that's funny as hell. That's something that I've said, that those words have come out of my mouth so many times. Trump votes by mail. Everybody's got to know that Trump votes by mail. And I haven't heard him once complain about his vote by mail. Family owns those trucks and trailers, they could build a train to get their class 1. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that. You know, that's why the government came up with the Real ID Act, is because so many states were giving IDs and licenses to illegals. Yeah, I know that played a big part in it. That wasn't everything with it, Iron Man, but it had as much or more to do with the airlines and international travel and things like that, coordinating with other countries and local, interstate travel here. But yeah, I know it had that played a part in it. And that's one thing I think that would not hurt this country is when we're having federal elections, national elections, everybody should follow the same rules. But the problem with that is it's going to take everybody getting together and coming together to figure out what the best rules are, what works for everybody, not just how one side thinks and compared to the other. And that's one of the reasons why some of this stuff will just never happen, because these fuckers won't work together for nothing. You know, our country was never built on one extreme clashing with another extreme and moving forward from there. It's always been negotiated into the best terms for the country and for the people in this country, and then move forward. And again, for a long damn time, more than a couple centuries, it's worked pretty good. Because I don't know about all you, but I think this country's still a pretty damn good place to be. And that's why it makes me so mad when I see stuff going on that jeopardizes that. That's why they're rating polling place in Georgia for 2020 ballot. Yeah, well, I don't think that's all we've heard. We haven't heard the last about that. That is a whole situation that I think is going to be in the news, and a lot of people are going to be held accountable and or held to explain themselves for all that shit. And I guess we'll wait and see how that plays out, but I don't see that ending well for a lot of people. It seems to me that the vote is important enough that people can do what I think is not a great effort to get a legit idea. No, it seems to me that the vote is important enough that people can do what I think is not a great effort. Yeah, and I get what you're saying completely, but the thing that you're leaving out of that equation is, again, there are millions of people in this country that don't have IDs. I'm not going to get into who they are because I don't want to say the wrong things. I don't want to insult people. I don't want to demean anyone. And it's not that I want to be politically correct or anything, but I'll just leave it at that. There are millions of people that don't have IDs that have proven what they need to prove according to their jurisdiction to be able to vote. What you like for me, our situation is very simple. Lisa is in a situation where she can't do these things, so we have different circumstances than most people in this country do, as far as voting and otherwise. You and no one else really knows exactly what we go through to vote. And I think when people don't consider that not everybody's in the same situation in this country, it can lead you down a wrong thought process. And you're taken away from people's genuine situations by saying, doesn't take a great effort. Well, I can just tell you that that's not a very accurate way to look at it. And I'm living a situation where I can prove that to you. I'm just not going to do it in this chat. Not requiring any to vote has actually fueled the MAGA madness we're dealing with. Wisconsin showed that voter ID still resulted in a rejection of the MAGA mandate. I'm going to disagree with you on that one. Not requiring ID to vote has actually fueled the MAGA madness we're dealing with. Wisconsin showed that voter ID still resulted in a rejection of the MAGA mandate. There is so much more to it that I just can't agree that that's why we are where we are today with voting. It's part of it. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all, but I don't agree with the way you put that out there. There's a lot more to it than just that. That was something that they grabbed onto at one point, and it stuck. The old saying, throw shit against the wall until you figure out what sticks and then run with it. That's one of those things, because their argument has been skewed so many times, and it's just something that everybody wants to argue about. So that's what I'll say to that. Is that truth as it is? I don't know what you're responding to. I'm sorry. Showing papers is not what we call free society, and don't fix what's not broken. Yeah. I mean, in general context, to move freely around our country and otherwise, yeah, Madison, I agree. Showing papers is not a free society, but we're not required to do that in this country. So it doesn't really apply to us being a free society. We are a free society for now. It's just special circumstances that come up when people want to see papers or people have to show papers. Here's another thing I just saw today. TSA is going to require people to pay an extra $45 to fly. Why? To go through security. $45. So you're not only paying extra for baggage, you're paying extra for yourself to be allowed to go on a plane now. Here's a better idea. Get the real ID system working properly and monitored properly, and get rid of TSA at the airports. Have people go through the machines and stuff to detect bombs and drugs and stuff all you want. I don't care, but you don't have to staff every airport in the country with TSA agents and have that kind of money going out. There's no need for it. Come up with better technology, better ways to monitor that stuff, and then you don't have to worry about it. And the real ID is one of them. You get a driver's license in Arizona too. However, I see it as a good thing, because then they have the insurance, then they can be tracked. Yeah, I don't know how well it is for tracking people and stuff, to be honest, but I think there's an argument for the whole immigrants having driver's licenses. I know in Wisconsin, it's a damn good argument, and the argument comes for these people. Just so you guys know, these arguments are coming from the farmers. They've got to do whatever they can to get these people to come into work, because otherwise their farms don't operate. And if anybody doesn't believe that, you need to learn more, because that's the truth. Our farms in this country can't function without them. That's a simple fact. It's been that way for since the beginning of our country. Our railroads wouldn't have been built if they would have had to pay the citizens of this country to go out and build it, because people weren't willing to go out and kill themselves, and plenty of them died doing it. People weren't willing to do that for the amount of money they wanted to pay or could pay to do it. So you have to show your driver's license to be able to register to vote or anything in our local elections. And that's wrong. You know what? I'm going to put this up here. That's the root of the problem, Iron Man. You just nailed it. That's the root of the problem. Because all you have to do is show your driver's license to be able to register to vote or anything in our local elections. That's wrong. Shouldn't be that way. There's very few places in the country that do that, where you're only all you have to do is show a driver's license. That's not acceptable in most states in this country. You have to show either an official driver's license and these documents and these documents, or these documents or these documents. You have to prove who you are. You have to prove where you live, all that stuff to register to vote. If the states would take care of the registration properly, our election system will take care of the rest of it, and it will make all of this shit go away. But that's the root of the problem. If they don't have the initial registration covered, they're just inviting the opportunity to try to screw the system around. And here's the other thing I'll say to you guys: the people that come into this country legally or illegally or otherwise, I don't want to throw that part into it. It doesn't really matter. The people that are coming to this country to go to work, to send money back for their families or otherwise, or bring their families here to make life better for them. Do you really think they want to go and vote illegally and get thrown out of this country? I don't. And the people that do have that kind of tendencies are typically not the ones that are going to go vote. They're going to be out drinking on Friday and Saturday nights or otherwise, or they're going to be doing this, or being the criminals that Trump wants everybody to believe, that everybody comes in illegally is a criminal, which just isn't true either. Statistically proven, by the way. A lot of those people are just decent enough people. They want to come in and work, and they want to work in these farms, and the farms need them. Does it excuse anything? No, absolutely not. We need to get our immigration system fixed. That's it. And all this shit would go away. They could make every bit of this go away. In a couple of years' time, it could be all taken care of. And we've got the money to do it. They're just not willing to. I didn't show any papers or driver's license to vote ever. Madison, where? In this country? Yeah, if you don't have the real ID, you have to pay the extra $45. And again, to me, that's bullshit. There's no reason why, if somebody doesn't have the real ID, hasn't had a chance to, let's say somebody dies in their family, they need to fly somewhere for a funeral. If they have reasonable whatever ID they can show, whatever the airline requires to show, and they have that, they can prove it. They have a work history, they have whatever, doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. and they just haven't gotten the real ID thing, you shouldn't have to pay an extra $45 for that. Because I guarantee you in the end, what that $45 is, it's a moneymaker. It's not it's not anything other than that. Yeah, the other thing too with the real ID with the $45, I guarantee you there's a lot more people in this country that don't have real ID than do. The the vast majority of people that have the real ID right now are people that fly somewhat regularly or expect to fly somewhat regularly. There's still a shitload of people in this country that don't fly. We don't fly at all. Lisa can't fly. So we haven't flown in 15 years, something like that. So I haven't had any reason to go and do that. And I know we're not alone. America, home of the Statue of Liberty, Madison. What state are you registered to vote in? If you don't have to say this if you don't want to. It's fine. I don't care. I'm just real curious as to what state you were able to register to vote and take part in our elections without showing any form of ID. I'd love to know that state. Because again, I'm a lefty and I don't buy that shit for a second. That's no way that should be happening in this country. Yeah, and Iron Man, well, hold on a second, I'll put it up here. What the Real ID Act is, it makes you show your Social Security and birth certificate to prove you're legal also. And those are also things that you can show to register to vote. So it all plays into the same thing. Now, let me ask you this. Because you go through all that to get your real ID, do you think you should still have to show it every time you vote? Every time you, I could really drive everybody crazy right now and say, or we can follow what Trump says, and we have to show our ID every time we go to the grocery store. But I won't push that too hard. Anyhow, that's kind of the same thing with voting with the ID. Take out the real ID thing and put in registration. Once you go through those motions, people don't question that as your ID. Like they want to question a driver's license, which can be obtained easier. So that you have to show other things, or you have to get a real ID to fly, this, that, and the other. If you take the same steps to register to vote, which again, birth certificate and Social Security card, you can use those to register to vote. Those are accepted forms of ID. So why should we have to keep repeating all this stuff every time we go to vote? And like us, we can vote 3 times in the same year, 4 times in the same year. It's kind of an unnecessary step. If you've proven yourself, you've proven yourself. That's kind of where the whole ID argument falls flat, because you don't have to keep showing ID all the time, everywhere you go. Especially in small towns. I mean, hell, I go in to vote. I know everybody that's in the room. Everybody that's in the room knows me. They don't have to ask who I am. They know who I am. And there's a lot of places like that around the country too, where people have known each other forever. Hell, some places are all fucking related. A lot of them are here. Excuse me. Registered through government organization that had my ID, so I did roundabout, you could say. Yeah, well, I did show ID initially, right? And that's why I asked you that, Madison, because to me, again, no one should be able to vote without being registered, and no one gets registered without proving who they are, where they live. They have to know your identity, and they have to know what precinct and what jurisdiction you live in to get the right ballot for you and or tally the ballot to the right people. It's a simple process, and it's been ironed out big time over the last 250 years. And it does work really, really well. A lot better than what they want you to believe. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm concerned about it now because the guy that bought Dominion voting machine is a far right billionaire. I don't think that should have happened either, because that just creates suspicion. That creates, to me, a circumstance that everybody should question. Yes, you do have to show your ID to buy liquor, to buy cigarettes. Why shouldn't you show your ID to vote? I can't. I buy cigarettes all the time. I haven't had to show my ID for 30 years. Matter of fact, I bought alcohol, and I haven't had to show my ID for probably 30 some years. So I get what you're saying, Iron Man, but I don't agree with you on that. There's some places, if you're if the store policy is anybody doesn't look 75 years old, they have to check their ID. I get all that, but there's no laws or anything anywhere that shows other than you have to prove you're 21, and they allow most people in most states and most jurisdictions to use their judgment of, if they're questionable, get their ID. If you know that they're 30, 40, 50 years old, you don't have to check their ID. And it kind of follows the same with the voting stuff, to a point, as far as people knowing you and everything else, what I'm talking about. But getting drugs, yes, you want to show ID. Well, I live in a great state of Wisconsin where our right-wing politicians will not approve even medical marijuana or anything else in this state. Luckily, we are surrounded by every other state on all sides that have gotten smart and legalized almost everything. But I don't have to show ID because I live in Wisconsin for buying drugs and all. I wouldn't have a big problem with that either. But again, it'd be the same as everything else. I think once you go to a place 10 times and they know you've shown your ID 10 times. And again, even with that, how much ID do you have to show? Do you just hand them a driver's license like the immigrants do in New Mexico, and you're allowed to buy marijuana? How do they know that that's even real? How do they know that's a genuine license? I mean, we could expand these arguments out into almost anything, and it wouldn't make any more sense about any of those things than it does for me for voting, because it's a redundancy. We're not supposed to be that kind of society where you have to have that done. There's too much technology available to us that we should have to do all this stuff. I could renew it without me requirements. Real ID. Well, I just renewed mine not long ago, and I don't have the real ID. Same thing with the driver's license. Bit the bullet, spend a day, finding birth, marriage certificates, another 3.5 hours DMV for the ID. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm talking about with the people that are being required to vote that don't have IDs and that don't have the means to get transportation, take off work. A lot of people have jobs you can't just take off time. And I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but that's true. A lot of people don't have jobs with even that kind of a relaxed benefit. And the other part is there's not really any reason to make something be a pain in the ass to people when it doesn't have to be a pain in the ass to people. Oh, yeah, here in the state of New Mexico, they just passed a law that you have to show your ID to be able to buy liquor. Well, because the minimum age to buy cigarettes is 21. All right, Iron Man, if you go buy cigarettes or booze in New Mexico, you have to show ID? Are you serious that somebody's going to question that you're not 21 years old? And I'm serious with that because I got to tell you, if anybody were to ask me for an ID to buy cigarettes or alcohol right now, I'd be shocked as shit. I really would. I wouldn't even be thankful or appreciative. I would just say, "Are you out of your mind?" I'd start carrying a picture around of me when I was 21. Say, "There, this is what I look like at 21. You're telling me that's? Come on." Boss needs to go. You aren't kidding. Boss needs to go. Boss needs to go a long way away. But now I have the real ID. All I have to do is take in the proofs of my address. I get my license. Yeah, and I mean, with that regard, I mean, all I have to do is go in there. Matter of fact, they printed out my new license before I even had my old license out of my wallet. They didn't ask to see it at all. They had my new license printed based on the information I gave them in the Wisconsin system, and they printed out a new ID before I had to show them my old one. And I asked them, I said, "Why do you do it that way?" So I don't know. I said, "Well, you shouldn't do it that way." And that's another thing too. I wish they would quit trying to cross these systems up to depend on each other. Our voting system can be a standalone system. I wish they'd quit trying to incorporate our DMV records into the voting system because that's just more room for error. It doesn't make sense to do that. I mean, systems are so advanced these days that they can all be standalone. They don't have to depend on the other to verify things. As a matter of fact, I know that there's been some attempts by some right-wing politicians to bring the DMV records into the voting systems, and it didn't make any sense to do it. So my only assumption on that was they had some type of ulterior motive to do it, like maybe knowing that those systems may not coordinate real well with each other. That's what would have made sense to me at the time because nothing else did. And right was an insult. I was almost a looker in my 20s. Yeah, hell yeah, I was I didn't look 40 when I was 20, but I sure as fuck don't look 20 when I'm 60. It just doesn't work that way. I was 30 seconds behind. Yeah, I've been behind quite a bit tonight, Iron Man. I've been. See, I read these questions and then I take too long with my answers are too long. That's why everybody says I'm boring as fuck. And of course, what I say to that is I could give a shit. Yeah, I got you by 20 years, Iron Man. I'll be 63 this year. But I look 42, just so you know. I do. I look 42 instead of. See, I say stuff like that, but I can't have the camera on. That's why I don't have the camera on, because I don't want people to know I'm lying through my teeth that I look 40. What else we got here? Is the number of people who can't get birth and marriage certificates together to get a government ID so high as to sway an election? No. Is the number of people that are inconvenienced, drastically inconvenienced and challenged, because it's so hard for them to coordinate getting an ID of any kind, whether it's getting marriage certificates or birth certificates together, high enough to sway elections. In some areas, yes, without question. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a valid fight, I think, is because the right doesn't recognize that as an issue at all, and the left is more aware of it. And that's, to me, that's just the truth of the matter. But I think that situation's much greater than just people who can't get marriage and birth certificates together, because again, it takes a lot of time. The poor rural areas are what areas? And again, we could go through this for a long time and get into much more specifics, but the poorer, more remote areas is where you'll find the most population that has that type of issue. Shit, I was called 50 the other day by a bunch of teenagers that swarmed me. It was my other sign. It was funny. It was still like, yeah, I think you just scared the shit out of them, Iron Man. That's all. You put the fear of God in them, and it's okay. Most of the teenagers need that shit. They don't get enough of that like we did. Maybe sometime we'll have a stream where we'll just talk about who scared you the worst when you were a teenager, who put the fear of God in you when you were a teenager. Was it your parents, or was it your best friend's parents, or was it a relative, or just somebody that lives in the neighborhood? Or that could be a whole stream to talk about. But is there any merit to the idea of going into those areas and helping them legitimize their identities? Yeah, but it takes money to do that, and there's nothing in our government right now that identifies that to allocate money to do that. And I can tell you that on the left, there are programs that have been run by organizations to try to help do that. But the problem with that is the right has taken upon themselves to call that an attempt to sway our elections, because by going in to help, they think that they're going to register all of them to vote Democrat, whereas the programs themselves were just established through busing and things like that to afford people the ability to go get an ID, just like they try to get people to go to the polls that don't have a way to get there. Everybody challenges that as an ulterior motive. It can't just be what it is. Does it take money? It does take money, and it takes activists going in and giving rise to help. They're already doing that. There's a lot of people doing that across the country. Believe me, there's a lot of people that are organizing stuff like that, and they have been for the last 20 years. But the problem is that a lot of it has been shut down through legislation, because again, the accusations come in that they're trying to register all these people. There was a nursing home, a whole nursing home in Georgia that they did that with. There were buses and stuff that were put together because the people that were running it had political affiliations. It was assumed immediately that every single person they took in to get registered and everything, that they were registering as Democrats. Just like right now, the right says the left wants an open border, so all the illegals can register to vote for Democrats to beat the Republicans. And again, we've been having this discussion all night. I hope everybody's aware that all the illegals in this country aren't fucking voting. And if anybody really stops and thinks about it, the logistics of making that happen, it just that alone makes it almost impossible and ludicrous to even think about. But yeah, it takes money. Everything takes money. And that's one of the big problems we have right now in this country is money actually has too much power, and it needs to come back to the people that don't have all the money to start making the decisions and supporting those decisions and making shit happen and all that. That would solve a whole lot of things. I have friends in Milwaukee that give people rides to vote. It's nice for them, better than the bus. Yeah, everywhere has that. Every state in the country, I guarantee you, there are programs that help get people to the polls to vote. Every state. A lot of that stuff's done very quietly too. It's not quietly to hide anything, just quietly because a lot of times people don't go out and vote. They don't go out and get ID. They don't go out to a lot of different events that have nothing to do with politics because they don't have the means, and they're how do you say it? They're tired of being judged by society for not having the means. My friends have been walking to get people. Absolutely, you just said that. I fear my mother. She's only 5'2", 120 pounds. She could still hand me my ass in 3 seconds. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm 6 foot, 230, 240, something like that. My kid is 6'4", 290, and he'll tell you right now that he still doesn't mess with me because I know how to put him on the ground. So I'm not 5'2", 120. That's Lisa. She could handle herself at that size too back in the day. So yeah, I get that. That's funny as shit, but I know far too many of your mamas out there. Believe me, where I grew up, you knew who they were too, and they let you know. With all due respect, David, I'm not resonating with your position that requiring proof of identity to vote, just like proof of age and identity, is required to buy alcohol is unreasonable. It's not the same thing. You don't have to go through the motions to buy alcohol that you have to go through to vote. Simple fact. When you get registered in this country, you have to show your ID. You also have to show typically one more form of identification, and you have to show information to show where you live. You don't have to do any of the additional things to buy alcohol. So I'm not sure what is not resonating. It's not me that's coming up with that. That's just the way it is. That's the rules of the game. That's the rules of the voter registration processes in this country. And I think because most places apply federal guidelines and they use the same systems for local stuff as they do for federal, like they do here, I think that applies pretty much everywhere. So I'm not sure why it's hard to not get on board with that. I mean, of course you can think what you want, but it's just kind of factual stuff. And yeah, I like mail-in too. And I hate the fact that the right thinks that mail-in is such a curse in this country. Because like I said, 30 years ago, the Republicans wouldn't have won a single election if they didn't have mail-in voting. And that's a fact. You can go back and look at all the stats on that. Look it up. That's the truth. They were by far the biggest proponents of mail-in voting 30 years ago, 40 years ago. For a long time, it was a Republican advantage. But now, my God, it's a curse. Do you think Reagan's trickle-down effect worked? No. Rich get richer and eventually gets looser. Yeah, no, I don't think trickle down economics works at all. It's yeah. Let's do another stream about that sometime. That's a fun topic. Well, I'm whittling them down. We're down to 22 people in here now. I got good 22 people that like to chat about this, so I'm pretty happy with that. Hate to change topics, but I just found out it takes 5 days to freeze dry ham properly. Now, how the hell did you find that out? Just by luck, or have you been working on figuring that out? I don't think I've ever did freeze drying on ham. I've done smoking, and actually, believe it or not, salt curing down south. Had a guy that had some acreage and some pigs and stuff down there, and that's one thing he did. That's a big thing down south, is of course is salt curing and all. And you get Proud Boys or Max standing outside the polls. Who wants to deal with that? Yeah, well, I think that needs to be shit canned too. This whole bullshit of people being armed at being monitors at polling stations. What the fuck are they doing? What are they accomplishing? Nothing. It's just intimidation, and it's asinine. It shouldn't be allowed because it doesn't benefit anybody, right or left. This country should be focused on having the most people vote as possible, not the least amount. $5 days. Unless you're talking about some other drying or curing process. 5 days to freeze dry ham. Salt cured a deer hide. I hit with my truck. I've done that before too. I used to trap all the time. I was actually pretty advanced trapping for 3 years. Know far too much about that crap. Freeze dried takes 5 days because of the fat. That makes sense. It actually does make a lot of sense because fat, when it gets cold compared to when it gets hot, you have a heat to it compared to being cold. It reacts completely differently, and the meat doesn't react as differently. So it would stand to reason that the fat would be an issue. Well, I'll tell you what, you can freeze dry just about anything around here these days, Iron Man. Like I said, we were 24, 25, something like 26 degrees today. That's the first time we've actually been anywhere above zero to any measurable amount in a week and a half. And it's down 4 degrees here right now. And that's plenty cold for doing any of that stuff you want. Trapping, that's rough. Actually, I love trapping. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I was lucky to get hooked up with a guy that was very good at it and taught me a lot of amazing things about trapping. And I was 19 years old and was pretty successful at it. I won't say that I made a complete living on it, but pretty damn close for almost 3 years. Proud Boys are now on ice. That should stop. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Well, those are good examples of one of the reasons I have issue with a lot of the stuff that's coming from the right is that they're more than willing to do stuff like that. Hiring Proud Boys to be ICE agents on our streets, I don't give a shit what's going on. That's wrong. That's just, they should be disqualified before even walking in the door to fill out an application. Because federal agents shouldn't perform their duties with bias. Yeah, actually, that's funny. That's the first thing when you said about freeze dry. That's the first thing I thought of. I remember was the Skittles. Do what? I gotta take your pills. We're really late on this. Excuse the noise for just a second. I got 2 seconds. Be right back. Good. Excuse the noise. Iron Man is gonna. I know you talked about it before, but you have a like a commercial unit for freeze drying stuff, don't you? Isn't that what you told me before? Because I think the freeze dry Skittles are amazing, and I know that some of the best meat I've ever had was flash frozen. I don't know if you have that capability with their system, but um, literally some of the best meat I've ever had was flash frozen. And the reason it is so good is that it goes from um, raw or thawed to frozen so fast that the crystals don't form. And when the crystals don't form in the meat, it doesn't puncture the cells. And when you cook the meat, all those punctured cells don't leak all the juices out. They stay in the meat. And I can tell you right now, it is a night and day difference, the quality of the meat. I saw the new movie and I pretended I liked it. My son asked about it. Please help me. Thank you. I have no idea what the Markiplier movie is. I wish I could help. We are living in wickedly sinister times. We're living in times that are getting impacted by wickedly sinister actions and people. I don't think we've lost all sight of things yet. So if it comes down to us living in those times, then we're screwed. I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think people should lose sight of what this country is and what it's capable of and what it's done so far. I think we can come out okay. Just need to recognize the bad, and everybody needs to come together to recognize that stuff. Quit hiding behind talking points and excuses and unreal expectations and things like that. Just the very beginning of this stream, the first thing I saw was about the Epstein files. Shame on anybody that is not condemning people that are included in that. Period. Shame on you if you're not condemning the people that are named and proven to be people that have or are victimizing children, especially some of the absolutely horrendous stuff that's described in there. Shame on you if you don't condemn that. I don't give a fuck who it is. I've said this enough times and I'll say it more. I don't care if it's Trump, Clinton, Biden, Obama, and I don't care who it is. Bill Gates, Soros, Sean Hannity, name the names. I don't care. If they're in there and they were doing that stuff with kids, yeah, it all needs to be brought out. And it's just an absolute pathetic thing that it's not. They're saying that they're going to hold 3 million items now because that's the stuff they've deemed as damaging to the victims and yada yada yada. Well, I hate to say it, but they released, there were, I forget how many it is, 18 or 20 of the victims in the stuff that they just released. There were 18 to 20 of the victims' names and identifying information released in this new batch. And to that, I'll just say, fuck you, Department of Justice. How dare you say that's what's taking you so long and why it's so difficult to do this, that you got to protect that. And you release enough information to identify 18 to 20 out of X number of people. I don't care if it's out of 100 or out of 1,200. And then hide behind that. I hope they sue the shit out of you, every one of them. But yeah, anybody that's not on board with this, with the investigation and digging into this whole Epstein thing, you know, I'm going to have an issue with anybody that's doing that, because, like I said, that's not a political thing. I'm sorry, that's just not. Every group or community or otherwise I've ever been involved with, on a personal level, a couple professional levels, and otherwise, that had to do with kids, it was never right or left, conservative, liberal, or otherwise. It was always unified about the kids. And this should never be any different. Robin Leach was on a name I was expecting to see in the Epstein's files. So many nasty pedos everywhere. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think when it all comes out in the end, comes out in the wash, I think there's going to be names in there that people just would never expect. And to be honest with you, what I'm saying here, I'm not saying if they're named in there, they're guilty. I'm not saying if they're named in there, go cut their balls off and throw them out in the, you know, shark infested waters, you know, anything like that. But they need to be recognized that they're in there, they're associated, so it needs to be investigated properly and thoroughly. And I saw that there was a congressional request made with some terms, and one of those terms of the request to the DOJ was to release the investigation files from 2007, when Epstein was found guilty, but he was given this 13-month, you know, sweetheart deal. They want all the files. There's I forget how many. It was a massive amount of files that are not being released. They're being held back. And I think if we really want to find out what's going on, the people in this country need to step forward now and just all in one voice and say, you know, if you're in office now and you don't support, you know, releasing this, you won't be in office soon, because we'll run every one of your asses out. Period. And both sides need to come together. And people around the world need to say that too, because this isn't just a U.S. thing anymore. We all know that this was spread all over the world. But we sure as hell should take care of what part of it pertains to this country. They need to release everything. Yeah, I agree, Iron Man. Problem is that we have a corrupt regime with its hands on what gets released. Fortunately, they're incompetent. Let me just share a little bit with you on that. I agree completely. There's more corruption in our government right now because of those people than we've ever had in our history. However, why didn't this stuff get released under Obama? He had the government to do it. Why didn't this stuff get pushed to be released harder under Biden? He had plenty of time to do it. Did it happen then? No. Like I said, there's too much influence on our government, and this is proving it, because I think some people are running scared because of the power of the people included in this stuff. But as a U.S. citizen and as a father and grandfather, I say fuck that. Put it all out there. Let's get this taken care of. Quit taking sides on it. Jesus. Just doesn't make sense. Saw some disturbing pics of Chrissy and a girl laying on the floor. No way this is news to royal family. No, it's not. It's he has been decommissioned as a royal in that situation, right? He was stripped of all of his royal labelings and whisperings and everything else, and that should have been happening 10 times over for every person named in the thing that's been proven to, and there's plenty of proof for a lot of these people, but the royal family taking action to say, you're not part of this anymore because of what you did there. I would love to see more of that happening. But again, don't be naive to think that there's not a huge amount of very powerful people in this stuff. Los Angeles, this Bamboni has control, and she knows who's in there. And I guarantee you that Hurley or David Miscavige. Yeah, I'm real curious to see how that comes out, Iron Man. What the actual connections are there, and what because there's so many connections right now. You can't tell me there weren't connections 20 years ago. Sorry, I wouldn't buy that for a second. I mean, there's a ton of connections between Scientology and this administration and the party. I don't know of any on the left that are involved in it. I'm not going to say that they aren't. I just don't know of any. But there's been a lot of connections made on the right, and again, those people, and I hope the voters on the right feel this way. But anybody that's involved in this shit, that's a MAGA or Republican or however you want to call it, conservative or anything, I hope everybody's on the same page on this. That if they're proven to be involved in this, cut their nuts off and throw them out in the shark-infested ocean. I mean, there's nothing better for them. Stupid toxic tech. I'll just write my comments. Yes, I'm going back nearly 2 years, decades, but no, not to blame Obama. I'm not blaming Obama. I'm not blaming Trump. Not blaming this. Not blaming that. If you're in the Epstein files, you're in the Epstein files. Just like all other things, all these different administrations have had opportunity to take care of stuff like the border, like we've been talking about all night, immigration, border control. Both parties have had an opportunity to take care of that. Both parties have known about this shit since prior to 2007 when Epstein was given the 13 months. So why haven't the Democrats done more when they had the opportunity to do more with all this? They've known about it. It's been there. Why haven't they done it? Why haven't the Republicans done it? I mean, again, we're talking about fucking kids here. How anything else is more important than that, I don't know. Money makes the world go round, I guess. Yes, he was stripped his title way too late. Yeah, Judy, I think all this is too late. All this shit should have been handled 20 years ago. Period. It should have. We should not even be having this discussion right now in 2026, because next year will be 20 years since he was given the little sweetheart 13-month deal in jail, and this stuff was going on way back. So none of this has gone quick enough. Complication with Epstein is he used his philanthropy as a front for his pedophilia. Yeah, and he used the philanthropy of others. The philanthropy that was out there was known. And it was known because of the players that were involved in doing it. And again, I've probably learned way too much about that crap with this whole thing too, just drive me nuts. But it just makes me really angry. And when I get angry about stuff, I learn more about it. It's the only way I know how to handle that stuff. honestly guarantee that somehow some of the kids from Scientology disappeared to that island. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me for a second, Iron Man, to find out that that's true. Wouldn't shock me for a second. Because the connections are there, and that would just be too easy for them to ignore. Have you compared Obama era policies and practices to Trump administration? Of course I have. I mean, a lot of people have. A lot of people should. It's history. You know what's going on then. You know what's going on now. And you learn from mistakes, and you know when people are making mistakes now compared to what worked then, and vice versa, and everything. So yeah, of course. How you doing, Petty Buddy? You know I'm listening. They couldn't release files or information while there were open cases and investigations until Trump said this was a hoax. There were multiple ongoing investigations, including the Prince Andrew case. His family didn't wait for the case to close before they passed judgment. Yeah, there's always circumstances with that, Petty Betty. But again, all this should have been and could have been done 20 years ago, and almost 30 years ago now, from when the first stuff started coming out. It's pushing 30 years. And it's a whole nother thing. This whole bullshit of you can't prosecute a president, sitting president, fuck that. That needs to go away too. I don't care, right, left, or otherwise. It doesn't matter to me. Male, female, right, left. If you're breaking the laws and you're screwing the country, you're out. You're done. You're going to sit behind bars. This whole thing of immunity, sorry. They're presidents, not gods. Andrew's case wasn't closed until last year when Trump said it was bullshit. Yeah, the cases against him are not called closed. Just so you know, there's stuff still going on with him. The family said fuck off and stripped him of all of his pretty badges and uniforms, and titles. But there's still some stuff going on with him for sure. I agree. I just know what was said since he was convicted. I can't stand it. Criminals shouldn't be making decisions for my future. Yeah, exactly. That's what it should be. And again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the criminal is. And again, at certain points, certain times, politics need to, political leanings need to, just leave the room. Talking about kids, 100%. That should never be political. Talking about elected politicians, you're either a decent person or you're not. You're either doing the work of the people in the country or you're not. Like I said before earlier tonight, if you're accepting gold bars from Egypt as under the table payments, get the fuck out of here. In the same way, I'll say, if you're accepting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia, get the fuck out of here. That shouldn't be an issue for either side. We got to get back to a point where right and wrong means something. And I don't care if you cure cancer, you don't touch kids. It's never passing children. 100%. We can say it 1,000 ways, and it all says the same thing. And I love hearing people say stuff like that, just because it proves that there's still a moral fiber that flows through this country. But when it's all being hidden and excuse after excuse after excuse, and year after year after year, that it's still hanging out there, makes me question whether we still have that going on or not. So I hope it all changes sooner than later. Just like I got a post on my channel right now that a known MAGA supporter put on their channel, and it was about Don Lemon, and it was his. It was a fake. I think it's a fake mugshot. I don't think it's a real one, but it was a Don Lemon mugshot, and the comment was, "Oh, the weekend's starting out great already." And I'm like, how fucking stupid you have to be to not realize that this is not a good thing for this country. When our government is arresting and charging journalists for anything like that, when they're actually doing journalistic work, that's a really bad thing for this country. The press is the only occupation that is actually covered in the Constitution. It's not. There's no other occupation that's discussed and protected by the Constitution aside from the press. And now they've arrested 2 this week. How many more next week? How many more the week after that? How many of them are going to be right-wing journalists? How many are going to be independent media? Right? I mean, God, let's run Reagan's AMC program. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these conversations could go a whole lot of different directions, right, Chi? I mean, I appreciate them all. And just so you guys know this, I love this stuff, as you can tell. I hope you can tell. We don't need no stinking ER doctors. Constitution, what is that? Good point. Got to give you that one. Because there's sure a lot of people in this country right now ignoring it and playing sides with it and playing games with it. What I just said about the Don Lemon mugshot being put out saying, "Oh, the weekend started out great." Wait till it's Fox News that starts getting arrested. Wait till it's anybody else. How pissed off were you when Alex Jones was arrested and he claimed press and everything else? See, I supported him to have freedom of speech to say whatever the fuck he wanted to say, but he went too far with things. He went outside of that. That's where I had a problem with it, and everybody else should have too. There's a whole lot of stuff that's said every day that I don't care for. But you know what? People have the right to say what they want to say until you start breaking laws with it, until you start threatening people, saying and doing stuff that's not covered by the Constitution, and it's not explained that way. Then you got a problem. But until then, people say a lot of stupid, nasty shit. And I think this is all falls under that. There's that comedian, Bill Hicks. I don't know any idea what you're talking about, G. Sorry. I probably should, but I don't. I'm confused on what they are confused on. They are people, humans, period. There's not fucking measuring line that actually makes it okay to do that shit you're doing. Yeah, not at all. But Rittenhouse, yeah. Wow. The Rittenhouse thing is a whole that just I'll challenge anybody. I'll challenge anybody that wants to have an argument about Rittenhouse. I like Alex Jones. Iron Man, that's one place that you and I probably will never agree on, and that's okay. I think Alex Jones is a opportunist. He is an antagonist, and he learned how to make a shitload of money by taking advantage of particular groups of people. in a lot of different directions, in a lot of different ways. And there's a whole lot I could say about it, but I won't. Just because I know some people do follow and otherwise. I'm just not one of them. I think he took advantage of a lot of people in his life. It's not, to me, that's not a good thing. Remember when Fox News wasn't allowed into the press room years back, and another media stuff? Yeah, every other media. There's been a few different situations like that about the media. I know that the AP just got kicked out. God, what was it? They wouldn't say, oh, they got kicked out because they wouldn't say Gulf of America. They kept saying Gulf of Mexico, and they got kicked out. Outreach over one good guy was gone. Mr. Pretty is on the right side of the argument. Yeah. The clear hypocrisy of that argument is, I don't know. I don't know how anybody sees this for any other way. You've got five different video angles. You've got all kinds of information to process. You see what's going on in real time. It's not edited video. It's real-time video. I don't care that the guy a week earlier or a week and a half earlier kicked a car and knocked the taillight out of it. If he deserved to die for that, he should have died on the spot. But no, they didn't even handcuff him. They let him go. So let's not take that story and turn it to 11 days later that all of a sudden, because he did that, it's justified to shoot the fucking guy. No, I don't think so. That's not how anything works in this country. And it's not good to see people using that as a pretext to this guy being killed. Like he did something so bad that they had to shoot him on sight. You'll never convince me of that as a reasonable argument. As far as Rittenhouse, most thought he was innocent. I don't think he was innocent at all, because he put himself in that situation, and it was obvious that the son of a bitch was not prepared to be put in that situation. So he inserted himself into a situation that he wasn't prepared to handle. And when it got out of hand, and we all know what happened from there. It's on him. You don't go out in a protest situation that's already out of control. By the time he got there, everything was the shit had already hit the fan. But you don't go out there, as a teenager with an AR-15 strapped around you, if you have any clue that you're not going to be able to handle what's going on there. And he certainly didn't handle it. But it's also insane that people are saying, oh, Pretty deserved to die, but Rittenhouse is a fucking hero. Make that make sense. Don't get me started on the Gulf of America shit. Hey, the Gulf of America to me is a place where you use Sharpies to predict the weather. I'll just say it out loud. That's what the Gulf of America is for me. It's a place on paper that you use a Sharpie to identify weather patterns. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, some of this stuff is reliving the stupidity is the only way to describe it. I mean, I'm first in line to give this administration any credit for any good thing they do, but holy shit. Freddie was BS, but Renee got what she deserved, just like Ashley did. I disagree with you there completely. Totally different circumstance, Iron Man. Let's have a debate about that. I'll go first. Renee was in a situation where it was obvious, again, through multiple angles of video, that she was trying to avoid a dangerous situation. She was trying to evade an interaction, a direct interaction with that officer, that agent. It's clear that she turned the steering wheel away from the guy, not toward him. She could have run him over in a heartbeat if that's what her intention was. But she tried to evade that situation. He did wrong by walking in front of a running vehicle with a person in the driver's seat. That's asinine. They're trained not to do that. And if they weren't trained not to do that, that's the problem here, is training. But let's assume, because he was on for 8 years, that he was trained not to be in front of a running vehicle with somebody behind the wheel. He put himself in that position. First of all, I thought she did good to turn the wheel hard enough that she did not hit the guy. And you could see that from the video as well. He did not get injured. This bullshit of him going to the hospital with internal bleeding, that's a lie. It just didn't happen. There's no evidence to show that other than verbal statements. So that it's just, there's also video to prove that he was walking just fine. He wasn't hobbling. He wasn't on the ground, nothing else. As far as Ashley is concerned, Ashley is a very different situation. She was somewhere where she was not legally supposed to be that day. And even furthermore, she was in a position of, in the action of going through a busted out glass wall or a glass window into an area that would put members of Congress who were 30 or 40 feet away in potentially immediate danger. She was also given very clear warning to stop and to get back. Did she deserve to die that day? No, I don't think anybody deserves to die in that situation at all. Somebody could have yanked her out of there. Somebody could have done different things, but under the circumstances, those officers are trained to protect the people in that building, and that's what was done. It's just a very different circumstance. Drop a link. I'll go up for this chat. Let me see what I can do here. Let me see if it works. Yeah, I don't know if that worked or not. Oh, yeah, looks like it did. Just when you come up, Iron Man, have your camera on in the back so I can make sure it's you, not somebody else that jumps in front of you or anything. But yeah, it's the first time I actually put a link on there, so I wasn't sure if it showed up on the thing. I see it on my phone that it did. But yeah, that's my take on that. It was very, very different circumstances, and it's hard to justify it, especially with their reaction to it afterwards. For people to come out immediately following that situation. Hey, here we go. I don't know if you want to be on camera or not, but it's up to you. I can't hear you from back here. Yeah, if you want to be on camera, just give me a thumbs up. I'll just bring you up. I can only see the top of your head, so there we go. Is that a yes to coming up on camera? All right, I'm going to add you up. If you want to turn your camera off, you can.
Oh.
Now I can hear you.
All right, so we're going to talk about Renee Good, and we're going to talk about Ashley Babbitt, and why I agree why both of them deserve to be shot. Okay, Renee Good was driving around all day long, antagonizing these cops, antagonizing these agents. She was told to stop. Well, she fled. She didn't cause that officer to have bodily injuries other than to go to the hospital and have stitches. But at the same point, any person in their right mind would stop, would never drive towards an agent. I don't care what your wheel, the wheels were turned one way. She hit the agent. So she got shot. Ashley Babbitt, her dumb ass, wanted to go stick her head through a window. She got shot. They both deserve to die. You fuck around, you find out.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think that the information on the agent is different, though. I think there's enough video evidence that I've seen, especially the one angle from the house, like it's a second floor window or patio or something like that. That I don't think the agent was hit. I think when he got, you can hear in the one video on the audio that he makes a bit of a sound, but at that time somebody synchronized the videos up, and it also just looked like what was on the vehicle was his hand.
But he got pushed back. It doesn't matter. He got pushed back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. The lady wanted to go out. She wanted to be a protester. She wanted to play around. She got shot. Her own wife, girlfriend, whatever that lady was, shouldn't have told her to run. She should have said, stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with on that part. The problem though that I do have with this is in the video, the way they approached the car and basically to get out of the fucking car, and just the way that they presented themselves and the way that they're presenting themselves to a lot of people. And I'll give you an example. I saw another video today. There was a lady driving in her car, and you can tell it's a white lady. It's not an immigrant or anything else. She's driving in her car and she's talking. She's recording, and she's recording an ICE vehicle, unmarked ICE vehicle, and she's filming them with her phone going down the road. And you see the vehicle go in front of her, swerve back and forth a little bit, hit the brakes, slam the brakes on, and they jump out of the vehicle, and 3 of them immediately have their guns drawn. And their reasoning that you could hear on the audio was that she was filming them. And they came out with guns drawn on her and ordering her out of the vehicle, that they were going to arrest her. And in the end, what happened was a local cop came.
Can you there?
I'm sorry.
Can I stop you there? Not to be rude.
No,
but
fine.
we're not talking about that situation. I agree. You can film whoever you want. If they're government officials, film them all day long. You want to go out and protest with your gun, do it legally, do it properly, and do it the right way. You know, right. Alex Petty, I will agree, that was 100% BS. He did not deserve to die. Renee Good, whole different story.
Well, I think that what I'm doing, Iron Man, is the reason I'm saying this is because when they approached her car, even with guns drawn, she told them flat out, "I'm not getting out of the car with you guys." And the way that they approached her, and I mean, when their feet hit the ground, when the doors opened, they already had at least 2 of them. I think it was 3 of them though. At least 2 of them had guns drawn on her, through the windshield. And that's the way these guys are acting out there right now. And it's beyond the scope of what they're supposed to be doing, and probably beyond the scope of what they're legally allowed to do in the end.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. But you cannot interfere in their operation. So if someone, I'm hypothetical, is the biggest drug lord in the world, okay? And you have information that the cops are going to go towards his house. So you start recording, you start filming, you start making all kinds of noise. The cops stop and get out of their car and tell you, "What the fuck are you doing? You're filming us doing our operations. Now you're giving this person a heads up to get away, to sneak away." Yeah, they have every right to do it. But at the same token, the cops have every right to get out and say, "Hey, you're interfering with our investigation and you're interfering with our operation." You can interfere with the person's operation. It's like someone going into a business and saying, just like they're doing to Target, you cannot go into Target and stand there and affect other people's shopping because Target's working with this agency. I'm sorry. You're affecting a business. You're affecting people's daily lives that are just going in there to shop and not have to hear this BS. But now they can't even just go into Target to shop. They're going to have to go in there and listen to the BS they've been trying to avoid.
Well, I think in that situation, I guess the thing of it is, though, Iron Man, is that with Renee Good, where I'm going to disagree with you on this is that she wasn't. They singled her out for whatever reason, to be honest. Her car, and where I have a real problem with this being justified.
Out, she had been following them all day.
Yeah, well, I mean, she wasn't all day because she went and dropped her kid off and stuff. But I think the part that I disagree with you on this, and hear me out, maybe I'm missing something, but from the time the videos that were available that have shown all this, she had stopped and was like, had pulled up and then turned somewhat sideways in a one-way street. You can hear her, you can see her and hear her waving vehicles past her.
Okay, those were not marked agent ICE vehicles that she knew wasn't ICE agents. She backed up to block agents to go from going forward. She was playing a back and forth game with the traffic. She let traffic go that wasn't part of the operation.
The one truck was an ICE truck, the tan truck.
No, it wasn't.
That's what not Bovino, who was the other guy that was at the podium. He said the truck was not Holman. I forget what his name is. He was like a lesser down guy that was at the podium at one point. He said that they identified that truck as an ICE agent, an ICE vehicle. The car that was behind the truck was not an ICE agent, but the truck was. And,
okay.
And you see her waving him past.
She didn't know that brown truck was an ICE agent. But in the fact is, she was hindering their operation. She was asked to stop. She hit the cop. She got it.
Yeah. Well,
Ashley Babbitt was in a stupid place where she shouldn't have been. She stuck her head in a window and back. She got it.
Yeah. And she was told to stop and everything. Like I said, there's
told to stop.
Yeah. Well, I think there's other extenuating circumstances here, Iron Man, that I disagree with you about, and that's fine. We can disagree all day, but I think the difference is that a big issue that a lot of people have, and I have as well, is that a lot of these agents are not identifiable. To be honest, they just aren't. I mean, I've seen so many people that have either made videos or gone out in the street. They've gone out and they spent $50 on a vest and a cap and a badge from stuff you buy online, and they're out I saw one the other day. They're harassing people. I saw one the other day, a video the other day of a kid that was probably maybe 25, and he was dressed up like in his getup. And he was leaning into the front door, into a pickup.
So you've never filed in your life? I have.
I didn't hear you say, I'm sorry.
In your life? You've never had the cop say, "Oh, you look like this, and since you look like this, we're going to throw you against the wall, and we're going to search you just because you look like a cholo."
No.
Creations.
Yeah, I've never had that happen, to be honest with you. But
so I understand where these people are coming from by being profiled. Being profiled fucking sucks. It really fucking does. But it happens.
I imagine. I can't imagine it, to be honest. I can only try to imagine what it is like to have that happen. I've seen it. I actually had a couple of friends down in Florida that went through that, and kind of have a friend down in Florida right now that's been going through it for a long time, and it's a lot of what that is, profiling. But
some bullshit right now that he shouldn't have to deal with. I respect Jay for what he's doing and standing up for.
Yeah, me too.
Where I come from, I was walking down the street with just me and my two friends. We had 5 cops surround us, tell us to get the fuck on the ground with their guns drawn because we look like suspects and because we look like cholos.
Right. And that's horseshit in this country. Is that shouldn't be happening, you know. And the problem right now, Iron Man, is that I agree with you 100%. That should never happen. It shouldn't be happening ever for anyone, anywhere, anytime, and no matter what you look like. But the problem is right now is that there are so many of these ICE agents that are not following any protocol whatsoever. I mean, when they marked off the intersection with crime tape, every time I've ever seen any crime scene like that where it's been taped off, they do it at a distance to keep the crowd away, to keep media back, keep everything, just to give them space to work and do what they got to do. These fucking guys put the tape up and they were standing 2 inches away from the tape, just all jittery and everything else, like tempting the protesters to come up to them. I thought, who gave the order to do that? It just didn't look professional. It didn't look right. It didn't look sensible. And that's the stuff that these people in Minneapolis and other places.
We agree on sides there's agitators.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Can we agree on both sides there's agitators?
Yes, 100%.
You know, those agents, they're at the end of the day, those agents are normal people. They have feelings too. Even though they're told to shut off their feelings, it's a job. At the end of the day, they're normal people. And they put their pants on just like me and you, one leg at a time. They're not fucking superhuman. They're normal people doing a job. And unfortunately, they're doing a job that a lot of people don't agree with and don't want them to do. And some of them are overstepping their bounds and becoming tyrannical. I'll agree with their tactics.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think that's been documented, pretty well documented. The other thing I'll say too, Iron Man, is that I get what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying under normal circumstance, but with what they have right now and what the information that has come out with the hiring, I think they've hired a lot of schmucks to go out there, put these uniforms on and try to do this job. And they're not trained enough to handle these situations. I think that, like what I said about Rittenhouse, that dude he didn't have the mental capacity or maturity to be in the situation he put himself in. And that's on him. And I think these agents, a lot of them they're not trained well enough to be out there to handle, a big protest like this. Maybe, walking the border and doing this, that, and the other, that's one thing. But when they get thrown into the fire of what's going on here with the tension so high, I just, the hiring practices have been documented. They've admitted to
my
how
is
fast they hired them.
They lowered the standard. Did you know back in the day to become a customs enforcement agent, you actually had to know and learn and speak Spanish? That was one of the requirements.
Yeah, I imagine. I didn't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear that. It would sure help you do your job better.
So you got to realize, David, I used to go racing in Mexico all the time. I crossed that border over 60 times, back and forth. Okay. I've sat down and had conversations with Mexican nationals and with their government people. It's wild, the system they work on and the system we work on. Over there, what we're doing here, they couldn't do over there at all. You mess with the police over there, you will either be arrested, shot, or extorted. Those are your three options.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
That doesn't happen in America.
No. I mean, I think one of the
sense because people have been wrongfully shot. I will say that, yeah. But at the same token, it's not happening on a national everyday. I got to worry about, this cop's going to pull me over and extort money from me or try and kill me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the, and it's not the same thing, but just take kind of that angle. And I think that's what people in Minneapolis right now are feeling. They feel like that, like this lady today, she was filming these guys in her car driving down the road. In this country, there's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing at all. She was not interfering with anything, but they went past her. They swerved the car. They stopped her, got out at gunpoint and all that. That's more Mexico than the U.S. And I think that's one of the problems we're facing right now is that's what's happening. And that doesn't happen in this country. You know, we're a little, I don't want to say more civilized, but we are more civilized than that. And also the reason that they have that in Mexico is the influences they have from the cartels down there. I mean, the fucking police, they don't have to worry about here about somebody from a cartel or a group of people from the cartel coming and killing them and their family the next morning if they arrest them wrong the day before.
Yep.
And that stuff, it doesn't never happen, but
you know, like it's wild to me that all these people want to just say that, how can I put it very easily? They're not stopping ICE from doing their jobs.
What do you mean? The protesters aren't stopping them from doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah. So question, if those people didn't follow them and they let the ICE agents do their job, would we have all this shit?
No, but there's a caveat to that. The caveat is the ICE agents aren't doing what we've been told they were going to do. And the reason I say that is everybody knows that Trump came right out and said, they're all criminals, they're rapists, they're murderers, they're from insane asylums and all this. We're going to get those people out of this country. And that's who we're going after first. And that's what this project was, in Minneapolis, was to go get the criminals out of Minneapolis because the state and local governments weren't doing their job in doing that, which is bullshit because they have been, and they've documented that. But the problem is that they're not going in with targeted missions to take out these criminals that they've identified. They said they identified all these criminals in Minneapolis and across the country.
The problem is the state's not handing them over. They're letting them go. So now they're to go out and these people.
Yeah, not in Minnesota. Minnesota has actually worked with them completely from the beginning with this. They have strict policy that if they have somebody that's a criminal, has a criminal situation going on and isn't documented the right way, they have a full record of turning them over. So that's not actually accurate. In Minnesota, they do that. They have a whole process in place to do it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems here is that they were told that this is a problem and they're going to come in and take care of this. But instead of going after the people that they know about, like, for example, there was a 70-year-old guy. If you saw the video, he was taken out of his house. They smashed his door down. They went in, took him out at gunpoint. He was the guy that was just in his shorts and a pair of Crocs. They took him out at gunpoint out of his house. My
phone's literally about to die. Let me put it on the charger and I'll come back.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Trump is one scared. No, Zella. I can tell you that's the one thing that you're gonna have, unless you're saying something that I'm not getting here. But if you're talking about Iron Man, that's just not the case here at all. If there's any scaring going on there, it's going the opposite direction. For those who know Iron Man or familiar with Iron Man, they'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know if Iron Man can hear me right now, but I'll repeat it for them. But the guy was 70 years old. He was taken out of the house at gunpoint. They broke his door in with a ram, took him out at gunpoint, gave him a blanket to cover up. He had a pair of shorts on or boxers on, pair of Crocs. They held him for 2 hours. They took him to the facility for 2 hours. They brought him home and said, "All right, you're home, safe and sound. See you later." Never apologized or anything else. He was an American citizen. And the guy that they were looking for was already in jail at the time, the entire time they were in town or everything else. So they didn't do their homework. They were just going off of whatever information they had, and it wasn't concealed from them. It wasn't held from them. It's just that they fucked up. And instead of not acting on that particular person because they couldn't verify it completely, they went into an American citizen's house. They smashed the door down, took him out at gunpoint in the cold, made him look like a fool, and insulted the shit out of him, and said, "Oops, later." And that's been repeated. I'm still waiting to find out. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about it or not, but I saw a video yesterday, and I don't know the background of it. I don't know what kind of information there was there, but there was a black Jeep in an intersection that looked like it had bullet holes in the. It looked like it had. I'll drop the link in a second here. It looked like it had bullet holes in the windshield, and the door. I think no, the doors weren't open. They opened one of the doors. There you go, Iron Man. But the Jeep was still running. It was blocking the intersection. The back window was smashed out of it. There was a drink sitting in the console in the center. There was some money laying there, so it wasn't like a burglary thing. And apparently, the people were saying it was a situation where ICE took somebody out. That's what I've heard, or otherwise. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, accurate, or otherwise. If anybody else knows anything about that, I'd love to hear more about it. Hey, Zella, do me a favor. I don't understand Spanish or otherwise, so don't put that in my chat like that. I don't know what it means, what it says. Until I know you better, don't do that. Because I'm seeing one thing there, and I don't know if you're insinuating something or not towards Iron Man, but not going to have that. That'll get you kicked out of here in a heartbeat, just so you know. So please don't do the Spanish stuff, because I don't know what you're saying. Anyhow, we'll wait for Iron Man to come back up. I love that he came up. It's cool. I love it. I love this kind of conversation. I absolutely have. Just 100% love it. Yeah, Iron Man was great protesting DC. He'd be great protesting anywhere. He's very effective and very committed and sincere about when he talks and what he thinks and feels, and that's what makes a hell of a lot of good protesters and activists. Good protesters and activists. People that don't walk through the world bullshitting themselves or other people all the time are usually pretty good people. So, all right. I think he's coming back here. Are you there? Mic's on now. Can you hear me, Iron Man? All right, we'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, this is to me, this is how people need to interact with everything that's going on in this country. I mean, in the end, you know, Iron Man and I might not agree on anything. Yeah, I don't know. I think we already agree on a lot of stuff that we've talked about here, and some people wouldn't think that we'd agree on anything. But you know, I think this is what this country needs: is more people are willing to talk, debate. You know, listen to what the other person's saying, and you know, I think it matters, and it's something everybody seems to have forgotten how to fucking do. Iron Man, I'm thinking maybe if your phone died, maybe you need to let it charge a little bit more or something before it kicks in. I'm not sure, but it's just spinning for me on this end, so I'm gonna pull you down, and you can try the link again, maybe see what happens. I want to get you back on because loving the conversation. And chat, sorry I'm missing the chat here. I just I'm kind of trying to focus on what we're saying up here and go from there. Real News stated that Stephen Miller was screaming for the ICE thugs to increase the number of Mexicans. Yeah, Kelly, I'll tell you what, that doesn't surprise me because I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in our country right now is that guy. I think he's responsible for a whole lot of problems we're facing right now, a whole lot of the division that's going on. He's got a long history of this stuff. If anybody's ever taken the time to dig into his history, it won't surprise you to see, you know, and hear what we're doing here. How do I take this off? I don't know how to take this off. Oh, yeah, how to do it. But yeah, I think Stephen Miller's a big problem with this, with a lot of stuff going on, especially the amount of division. Because I think it's obvious that it's a pretty standard goal. It's all one sided to him. There's no room for anyone else, and that's what creates the situation we got right now. Here, I'm going to put this up just so I can get rid of the other one. If they were after people who had been previously arrested, why are they asking people at the gas station why they have an accident? Yeah, I don't know exactly which situation you're talking about. I've seen a few things at gas stations, so I don't want to claim to know exactly which one it is. But that's a good example of what I'm talking about. They came out from the beginning with ICE that, you know, in his campaign and everything, that we're going to get the criminals and everything out. Said we weren't going to, initially said we weren't going to mess with the farm workers and all these different things. But it was funny how the numbers weren't going up, so they started going after farms. But now going into Minneapolis, the reason they said from the very beginning was we're going in after the violent criminals that Minnesota's not getting rid of. And here they are, you know, stopping people on the street because, you know, basically profiling them. And that's happened a bunch and just constantly. I know I repeated one story about, you know, a city crew of 4 people, and 3 of them were black and 1 was white, and they stopped the 4 of them and forced the 3 black guys to show their ID. Never saying that a white guy, you know, that's a problem. That's a serious problem. That is just absolutely nowhere in anyone's imagination how things are supposed to work in this country. People that are in this country, legally or illegally, have certain rights. Especially the citizens and such of this country have more, and shouldn't have to worry about that. Iron Man, I hope you're trying to get back. I don't know what happened. Maybe we can get his phone to charge up, but definitely gonna hang out a little bit and
see if you can make it back on. Throwing tear gas at a nursery school so they can pick up the parents is wrong. Absolutely. 100%. You know, holding a 5-year-old, detaining a 5-year-old to bait the father to come out. Absolutely wrong. Somebody needs their ass whipped for that one. Not just charged or, you know, prosecuted. Somebody just flat out that's willing to do that to a fucking 5-year-old kid. That dude needs his ass whipped. I don't care how you look at it. I'm sorry. We can't let Tiffany win governor in Wisconsin. Hell no, absolutely not. That'd be the worst thing for this state in decades, or possibly ever. Absolute horrific option for governor. And again, I think when people start seeing, you know, with some clarity on what some of these people, the purpose of what they're doing, following, you know, Stephen Miller's lead, for example. Anybody that follows Stephen Miller's lead is not worthy of sitting at a governor's mansion anywhere in this country. I don't care how you want things to operate. Jody, I appreciate your patience of listening to other sides, David B. Jody, I've always been this way. I think it's the most effective way to figure out how to move forward, not just for me, but, you know, the people I'm talking with, because it's inevitably going to be a situation where, you know, they hear things from me that are going to click, and I'm going to hear stuff from them that's going to click, and we're going to disagree like motherfuckers on some stuff. That's all there is to it, and that's okay. We don't all have to agree on stuff all the time, but I think if people would stop and pay attention to a little more attention to what everybody's saying, you know, and I'm sorry I'm biased on this, but, you know, the right has some real serious issues with that right now. They've got some people in leadership that are manipulating people in ways that they're not supposed to be doing, and there's proof of it. It's not just my pipe dream thing. It's not my lies or making this shit up. There's some real serious issues to be had here. And we need to get them taken care of, figured out, and voted out and otherwise, and get some changes made. You know, I mean, somebody like Stephen Miller has no business being in the White House. That's all there's to it. It just that's not the type of operation that our White House, that the office of the president was supposed to be impacted by. The gaslighting is strong with this administration. It sure is. It's constant. It is constant. I mean, the fact when Alex Preddy was killed in less than 40 minutes, you've got multiple people from the highest parts of the highest ranks of the administration coming out saying that basically it was a justified shooting because he was a domestic terrorist that was it was armed and there to kill people, kill agents. So I'm sorry, that takes a special breed of person to be able to see what everybody else saw in the videos and say that stuff. It takes a real special breed to do that. Miller's Gross needs running the show and the Heritage Foundation. Yeah, well, there's more to it than that too. Sassy Pants. There's another couple groups of people that are even above them. So we got to be able to control the power and who's pulling the strings. And I mean, everybody's got to wonder, how does this happen, right? Like every time you say, oh, they can't go lower than that, and all of a sudden, oh, they go lower than that. There's reasons for a lot of that stuff. And when it doesn't make sense to you, just understand there's more people involved than meets the eye. All right. Well, anybody else want to come up and talk? I'm not sure. I don't know if Iron Man's going to be able to make it up again, but I can just guarantee you all this, that I will
never hesitate to have Iron Man come up to talk like we're talking tonight. I don't care what the subject is. And I'll say the same for everybody else. I welcome anybody up that wants to have a conversation this way. There's only a few exceptions to people that I would not let up on my panel. Otherwise, I want everybody up there, especially, people like Iron Man that I respect. You don't get much more real than this guy. I hope everybody knows that. He figured out how long it takes to freeze dry ham, for fuck's sakes. I mean, that's a good quality human being right there. Miller gives deranged cyborg. Yeah. There's a lot of descriptives that could be attached to Miller. That's for damn sure. But if you guys really want to know, have a better perspective on what's happening in our country right now, not everything, but a lot of it, do a deep dive on Stephen Miller's history, and back to high school, back to his school days, and just go through it from there. You'll have head scratching moments, like, holy shit, there's a connection. Oh yeah, I've heard that. I've seen this. Anyhow. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, gang, it's getting, I don't know what time is it, 10 to 2. It's getting late, and I wasn't really looking at being on here for 3 hours, but damn, I'm glad I was. Iron Man, thanks so much for coming up. If you're still able to hear me, if you're still listening, I really appreciate you coming up here and talking. I really hope you'll come back, and let's do that over and over again. I look forward to it. And I hope other people give some thought to come up and talking too. I would love to toss it around with all you guys and give you a chance to kind of air things out and put your feelings out there. And I promise, if you come up here, while you're up here, nobody's going to come in here and give you shit, because either myself or any of the mods that I got will handle that for you real quick. I don't create a safe space, where you call a number to feel better, but we'll handle it. I have to watch the replay. Good night, David. Chat. Yeah. Good night, Kelly and Sass and everybody else. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you hanging out, and I hope it was worthwhile and interesting. And leave a comment if you can, and let me know what you think about it. I don't give a shit about the like button or any of that stuff, but comments I like, because I like reading, what you guys think about the streams. So, and any ideas and all of them are great too. So, Jody, good night, and I will see you guys are out there, and I appreciate it again. So we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Stay warm. Stay safe. Raise hell. Talk to each other. All right. See you later.